When first thought, submit spirit before matter. Our celestial humanity arrives, awakening in a dream, an inception of our reality. So we live, we love, and then there is music. So we dance, we sing, we pray, we reflect. In the infinite in between, the now that was, faces dance in our dreams. Some familiar, some indecision, cosmic composition. In the irrelevance of this time, we realize the passion of the random action, learning the lesson that the brotherhood of man is far more important than the ego of any individual. Imagination becomes the sound of thought, traveling at the speed of light. So we paint on the canvas of our ephemeral encounters with nothing. A masterpiece of memory that lives in the eternity of a child's soul. Ezekiel, what's happening, brother?
Good, Blue. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I hear you got some questions for me.
Yeah, over the years, we've been knowing each other since about 2002. We met over at, I think, one of the poetry spots. I think it was Club Chameleon or something like that.
Cafe Chameleon.
But you always just say everything was, not everything, but things were in the cipher.
Yeah.
I asked you a question about, what did you think about this? You say it's in the cipher. Can you explain what the cipher is and what the cipher is to you?
Yeah, the cipher was 360 degrees of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And basically, we took that and put that into the poetry community and started expounding on the many things that's going on in the world, whether it be love, life, war, conflict, politics. We did poetry ciphers, and just when everybody get around and just start spitting the gift with the verbal lifts, and so we Black Ink, Mahogany, Cafe Chameleon, Stockyard. There was a lot of places back then that was open. Before that, the predated was Poor Me Cafe, and then Ron Allen had Horizons of Poetry, and the Greystoke Jazz Museum, and Broadside Poets Theater. There was a lot of stuff going on back then with poetry, and so the cipher was like just all the way around the whole city.
In terms of your interpretation of your art and the projects that you're working on now, what are you working on now, Blue?
Well, right now I'm working on a project called it's called Monk's Crooked Pictures, and basically it's got the name from Thelonious Monk. Used to have crooked pictures on the wall and paintings and stuff he hung on the wall, and I have a wall in my flat called Monk's Crooked Pictures on the wall. The pictures are all crooked, and people wanted to straighten them out, and he said no, they ain't. They leave them like they are, and I took that as him not wanting to conform to the standards of the world. And that's basically how I am. The standards of the world are one way, and I don't plan against the grain of nothing right, but I plan against the grain of the wrong stuff that's in the world, or not necessarily a judgment of right and wrong, but I don't conform to the norms, you know. I try to step outside the box and bring something new to the table so people can look at things a different way. Because we all got something to say, 7 billion different ways. And it's key to listen to as many people say it their way as you can, because you may get some advice on doing something the way you never thought of, or something, or on a subject, or experience, or gift or talent somebody has that you may not ever discover before. So I decided, you know, with the pandemic last year, 2020, there was a lot of people lost in the world. We lose a lot of people in the world every year, period, just natural causes and other causes of death as well, probably more than the toll that we had last year. But it was polarized because of the pandemic, and it kind of made us a global community altogether. You know, that's what it was attempting to do. And hopefully, a lot of people was hoping it made a global community. And alongside with the pandemic, you had the Black Lives Matter protests, and the protests against racism, and we had a racist regime that was in office that we thought we would never get rid of. But you know, the power of prayer and unity can remove any evil, you know. And so I decided that I needed to, you know, my newfound purpose is to be a cosmic griot. And the cosmic griot is to tell stories of the people that I knew, and as many people as I can, and let them tell their own stories. I just display it in a way where it can be like a tale of ancient stories. When in the future, that's what it'll be.
Very interesting, Brother Blue. For our viewing souls that will be watching this in the near future when it's published, tell us, can you tell the people something about yourself in terms of when did you become aware of your artistic gifts? You know, gifts for music and word art, poetry, song, painting.
Well, I started out in the arts at a very young age, you know. When I was young, in my single digits, I used to draw all the time, me and my nephew. And I used to draw superheroes. And even then, I had a consciousness. You know, I looked at the superheroes and I said, well, don't none of them look like me. And I had, you know, that was my consciousness. You know, I was like, Superman, Spider-Man, you know, I liked them all. They was cool. You know, don't get me wrong. I was into Marvel, and I wasn't too much into DC, but I was into Marvel. I was a Marvel character, Marvel Universe fan. And I used to like the X-Men, and I identified with the X-Men, not realizing why, you know, where those stories came from. And I identified with the arts and graphic novels and comic books. And so I used to draw my own characters. I drew a whole bunch of characters that I made up, and I had my own universe. Me and my nephew, we called it the Black Star Universe. And Black Star Comics. That was the name of our comics. We never published anything, but when we met, we used to make full-blown comic books, small scale, draw them out by hand, and back in the day, and that's how my drawing started, you know. And painting wouldn't come in until later, till I worked at the Red Apple Gallery. And there was a first exhibit, and Katrina Red, she said at the time, she said, you know, won't you be in the show? I was like, I ain't never painted before. She was like, well, won't you start? And so that was the beginning of that. She sent me on my journey, and I just picked up a couple of canvases and started painting, just off the hip, and so that's where my painting and drawing started. Musically, I took up lessons from a lady named Mrs. Marbury Parks. My mother took me out to lessons, music lessons. I was classically trained in the piano for about 6 years, for about age 6 to 10. My mother wouldn't let me play jazz, so I discontinued and didn't want to play anymore. I thought that would be the end of me playing music at that time, because I couldn't play jazz, and I used to listen to Jay-Z all the time. My parents were real strict, so we couldn't listen to even jazz back then, because they were strict Christians and we were a strict Christian family, and there was no secular music or world in the house. And I used to sneak and listen to Count Basie and Duke Ellington and Ornette Coleman and Max Roach and Sonny Rollins, all them cats back in the day, back during the heyday of Detroit's and the world's premier jazz station, WJZZ, which I miss dearly. And you can see the effects on the city since it's been gone. But I used to listen to WJZZ, and I used to think, man, it's going to be a while before I learn how to play like this, And I tried on the piano. I couldn't get anything. Couldn't get it down at that age or whatever. So I just pushed that to a side. And one day I was listening to opera. I was listening to JZZ. I changed the channel and there was some opera. And it came on and I said, wow, this is interesting too. And so I said, I'm going to put a pin on that. Put a pin in that. And so here it is, some 46 years later. I bought my first opera album. I forget the name of it. Frida and Gerda or something like that. But I bought my first opera album. But getting back to the jazz, my mother had a piano in the house, and I would tinkle on it. I hadn't touched it in years. And then the turn of the century, when I was about 32, my dad bought a keyboard. I had some unfortunate financial situation at the time, hardship, and I had to move back in with him. I was 32, and it was the year 2000, and he bought a keyboard, and I'm walking around. I'm like, I went to the Navy and all this by this time. I went to the Navy from 1987 to 1991, and I traveled the world, had seen all kinds of sights and countries and whatnot, what have you. And then so, I bring it back. I'm a veteran. I went through a few little problems as a veteran, coming back from a war. I was in Desert Storm, and so I went out to Laramie County Community College, and also went to an aircraft mechanic school. And I completed the school, and I went to college and got a 2-year degree, a AAS in aircraft and power plant mechanics, associate applied science. And I also got completed independent study of the flute, and I passed that and got an A. And then so I come back around 2000. This is after I left Wyoming. Came back in 2000. My dad bought a keyboard, and he just sat it in the house. And I was like, why did he bring that keyboard? Here where I was trying to play on the piano, and I couldn't get it right, whatever. And so I seen him walking around the house. He just looking at me smiling. And I'm like, why has he got this keyboard? He ain't playing it. What does he do? So one day I got up enough nerve, because my dad, he put the fear of God in you, because he wasn't mean. He just, you had respect. for his kind of man. He was one of them old school brothers, where, when Pops come in the room, you stand up straight, stuff like that. And so I got up enough nerve to ask him, "Hey, Pops, what you gonna do with that keyboard? Can I play it?" He said, "Yeah, go right ahead, And he started smiling. I turned it on, and it was like programmed rhythm. I think it was a Casio or something. The rhythm had the rhythms programmed in it and whatnot. It was programmed. Turned it on. As soon as I hit the keys, it just started coming out. I was playing jazz. I don't know where it came from. And I was like, he knew. He knew. And I just was excited. And I was looking at myself and watching my fingers moving, and I understood what I was doing because I started remembering notes from when I had the lessons. So it had marinated all those years, And by this time I had, it was a whole lot of parallel things going on. I had did about 10 years in the Nation of Islam and as an FOI, and I left from there and went into the arts community, the poetry and music, art and poetry community, and I was doing poetry. I started out at the mosque with Sister Samaj and Brother Farouk when I did an album with them, and then I left there and went to Chameleon where I met you, and Sood, and was played a role in a lot of people hooking up, because the way we did the poetry, it was all about love and peace and soul vibrations. And I hosted at Burt's Eastern Market, and with Katrina Red, she had lyrical libations. Lyrical Lounge. That was the name of it. And she needed a host, and I answered the call and became a host there. And then music wouldn't start. It was a brother named Eli Wallace. He came up to me one day and said, "Hey man, I like to record you and your poetry and your music. Blazing Sun Studios." And humble beginnings back when cats used to have studios in their basement with the old big tube, computer tube, TV tube computers. And so he started recording me. I did that, and then somehow stopped doing that, and Jerry the Cat, Gerald James, Jerry the Cat, and about I had written several books, poetry books and whatnot, and Jerry the Cat emerged. I was introduced to Jerry the Cat by Carolyn and Joe Ferrari, and Jerry the Cat used to play with Funkadelics in Parliament, and so they said want to record, and so I was going under the name Bilal Malik Mutawasim. A lot of people don't understand why. I never gave up my birth name, Adrian Maya Cross. I always kept that, legally. Bilal Malik Mutawasim was a name that I had given. Bilal was given to me by the brothers because I used to do the call to prayer at the mosque. And Bilal was one of the first converts, and so I picked that name, and Malik means king. And Bilal, I used Bilal because I wanted to say believe in, love, and learn as the acronym, because that's what I was about, love, and showing people how to love and care, taking things that I learned and things that people was teaching and showing them how to practically apply it. And so that's where I got with Bilal, believe in, love, and learn. And Mutawasim was out of the Quran, a footnote. I think it was 1346 is the footnote. Mutawasim means one who studies to determine the true nature or character of a thing. And that's what I was doing at the time. So that's why I took that. I didn't want to take Muhammad, even though I was given Muhammad by the minister. But I didn't want to take Muhammad because I took it, but I didn't use it because I never felt that I was worthy to wear that name. And I wanted to give something that was more accurate to where I was. And so I chose Mutawasim. And so I published a few books under that name. And I incorporated and adapted and learned from all different kinds of things. And then 2007, I got out in the got back in the music world. Fast forward to 2007, I was recording a couple of first albums musically with Jerry the Cat, Gypsy Brew, Night Blossom, and Gypsy Brew and Night Blossom. Those are the two albums I recorded with him, and another one called Blue Bop Volume 1, and one with Carolyn Ferrari called Connect. And we recorded those, and he was here to take after his parents, and his parents passed away, and so he moved back to Europe and back to Lisbon. And so I didn't know how I was going to record. He sold me a computer, and I was off and running from there. I learned how to use music software programs, and I incorporated acoustic instruments with digital and analog interfaces with computers and stuff, digital, electronic, and stuff like that. And I learned how to work that pretty much watching him. I watched him do it, and he never taught me. I just watched him do it, and then when he sold me the computer, I just figured it out myself. And then I did quite a few more albums after that. All of these albums are on iTunes, Spotify, Tidal, all of the streaming services. But this was before the streaming service was out. I had stuff on MySpace and SoundCloud and all these different places long time ago, but which a lot of I forgot what the passwords were. But that's what I started with Jerry the Cat, and then I went off on my own, and the books were published by Joe Ferrari, and I kept doing poetry, and then I kind of slacked off from poetry and really started getting into music. And music was my love. Once I had always wanted to be into music, and I started out playing trumpet at the poetry spots. I used to do an air band with my poetry. When I play a poem, I would go try to imitate the muted trumpet. And then I said one day, you know what? I want to play a trumpet for real. So I went to the pawn shop, saved some money, went to the pawn shop, and bought me a trumpet. And taught myself how to play that. Just kept on playing. And Miles was my greatest influence on the trumpet. Miles, Ornette Coleman, Lee Morgan. So that's where I was trying. Mostly Miles, because I used the mute a lot. And one of my favorite albums by Miles was Kind of Blue and Round About Midnight. I still don't know how to play that song, Round About Midnight. I'd love to learn it. But
it's a very, very, very complete historical journey. In terms of the healing aspect of your art, your music, I've listened to quite a bit of your music, and it's in different genres. Can you tell us what spaces are you in when you create your music and when you create your visual art? What space are
Well,
you in?
my music is painting with sound, as Brother Abstract would say, and it's praises to the Most High. That's why when I play, I think about God all the time, and I just say, bless my hands and bless my mind to transmit the praise I want to give you. You know, I ask the ancestors to give me the notes and guide me and help me to play. And then once they showed me, I developed and learned a key that I have. I learned three keys: the C major, B flat major, and F, and sometimes E flat major, and a minor, and I play in these keys, especially the B flat, because it resonates with me. You know, when I was born, the like I did some research after brother Kenny Green was teaching me. You know, he said what was resonating at the time of his birth was the G note, or A flat, as they say. And I researched my birth date, and what was resonating at the time of my birth was F, or F sharp. And so that's what I was playing in, and I got the B flat because that's what I played on the trumpet, and it always coordinated when I play trumpet with my music. It always matches up, and the space that I'm in it's a spiritual space. I look at music not as something for entertainment, but as something for spiritual enhancement and spiritual enlightenment and conscious and cosmic awareness. It's cosmic music now. It's cosmic consciousness because we are all celestial beings.
Mm-hmm. Wow. In terms of your work with Farouk, your work with Skeeter Barnes and
Skeeter Shelton.
Excuse me, Skeeter Shelton and Kenny Green recently. How has that informed you as a musician?
Wow, you know, I went to do a lot of research when I worked with Kenny Green and Skeeter Shelton. You know, Skeeter was trained by Sonny Stent and Judge Gene Ammons, you know, and Dorothy Ashby, and he jammed with all kinds of people. If you look on Monk's Crooked Pictures, the playlist on YouTube under Lord Cross Supreme, Monk's Crooked Pictures, you'll look and see those documentary video books, and he explained everything of his process. And I learned the process about scales and different things of that nature. He was talking about how important it is to learn the scales. I believe that's important, but I never wanted to get locked into, me personally, I never wanted to get locked into a set form of training. I always wanted to just splatch and splotch, even though some people say, you know, that's erratic and there's not no form to it. But I've always managed to pull out some beautiful works, approaching it that way. And once I did get the set formula as far as a key to play in, I just painted all across the board with that. And there's a million different ways to play the same notes, you know. And my space, I've learned a lot with Kenny Green because he gets into the frequency and the vibration of the matter, you know. 432, the universal harmonic, and different frequencies of water and color, and Skeeter and Farouk was studying that kind of stuff. Farouk wrote a book towards a rational aesthetic. I read that book, and what I got the most out of it was not the research that they did, which was valuable, but the Faroukuisms, where he said the world is he said I am a Spirillian in the circle world, and that was so deep to me. I was like, we're Spirillians. And so then fast forward to now, Farouk has ascended and transcended, and me and Skeeter got together and we did an album called The Spirillians. And I saw them as giants. I always wanted to play with Farouk again. He taught me some pointers in flute, and I always wanted to play with him again. I never got a chance to do that, but I was fortunate enough to do a documentary video book and play with Skeeter Shelton, and that was indeed a great honor, along with Kenny Green. These are, when you look at the video books, a lot of them look like they're animated, and the theme is that I'm in a living graphic novel of my life, and these are all my superheroes, so that's how those ended up being like that. And I've learned a lot from them, a great deal that I'm eternally grateful for.
Mm-hmm. That's right on point. Brother Blue, in terms of this most recent project, your graphic novels, when will you know when your work is done? When will you know when this journey is done?
My work will be done when I leave this world, because this is my newfound purpose. And as many people as I can, I plan on recording. And, when I started with you in 2012, that was really the start of the journey in 2012 with Epiphanies of Sound, when we picked up those tape recorders and started jamming. I didn't know what I was going to do, because I had been playing music and recording and stuff, and I didn't know, I had a tape recorder and we were recording, and I didn't know where it would go. I didn't know it would get to this extent, of all these keyboards and drums and the R balloon, and we created instruments, we made albums, we made art, we performed at different places with Epiphanies of Sound, and it's just been awesome, and it's a very healing aspect of creativity. I know you said that it helped to heal you a lot, and other people have told me the same thing. I try to put it on the heartbeat frequency, so that it's soothing and relaxing and not agitating. The music is meant to relax and help you to unwind. And our music with Epiphanies of Sound is just abstractivism. We paint with sound, and there, most times we never rehearsed. We just came in and just jammed, and there's always been some beautiful stuff. You can see a lot of that work on Ancestral Corridors online, on Spotify and Tidal and all that. And those were some great works to do. We did I picked the best out of the ones we did, and but we've done over 100 something works with Epiphanies of Sound, and and it's just been a beautiful thing.
Yes, it has. How do you utilize, Brother Blue? How do you utilize meditation? And are you informed by your dreams? Is your art informed by your dreams?
Yes. Matter of fact, I'll share a dream. I had a dream the other day. It was actually this morning. It was a vision. And Africa, for somehow the whole continent had dry. It was a drought over the whole continent. And we went over there. We were all over there as a people. We had all went back home. And something had happened to where the continent was a drought. And so we were all in our royal garb and stuff, but for some reason we had no power over it. We hadn't tapped into our power. And there was this sister that came. We didn't know where she was from, but she came and she had these seeds. And the only place that was green was a little part of the rainforest that was left in the Central Africa. And there was a little rainforest, and that's where all the animals were staying. And she came out of there, and there was a river that came out of there, a small little stream. And she had these seeds, and she was like, y'all don't know how to tap into who you are? And I said, teach us, for we have forgotten. And so she took a seed and she put it in the water, and the water opened the seed, and then all over all of Africa, the whole area started turning green, and the foliage and everything started growing. And then all the animals, the lions would bring fresh kill. Lions came to the village where the lions came and laid fresh kill, gazelles or whatever they ate. They left. They came and dropped it and laid it as a sacrifice to us. The giraffes had grabbed these fruit from these trees that we couldn't climb because the trees had some kind of poisonous thorns on them or whatever, and you couldn't climb the tree. But the fruit on these trees were so rich in nutrients that the giraffes were the only ones that could get them. So they had branches of that. The gorillas and apes and everybody, they brought fruits and stuff. And so all the animal kingdom came and brought us gifts and laid them at the village, at the gateway to the village, all around the village. And she said she was leaving, and before she left, she said, remember who you are, and left. And then I woke up. I came back to this.
Wow. In terms of, you've often described astro, what I consider to be astro traveling. I don't know exactly how you describe it, but in terms of your meditations, can you express to the people how you use meditation for your own healing and
I use
and your life?
meditation along with my music. I would compose some work, and then I would go and listen to it and meditate and let it take me where it will. And a lot of times it would take me to different worlds and different dimensions and whatnot. And I'd be working out different problems. And I had a vision of who I was celestially. And it was basically a worldsmith. This worldsmith went throughout the cosmoverse creating worlds. And he would come back and check on these worlds, and sometimes he would come down as a human and help guide the beings or whatever that was on the humanoids or whatever that was on that planet and guide them. He would come back and check on them, and this was all revealed to me. And Juju Babu was African shaman celestial who lived in Mount Kilimanjaro, and he had a lair in Mount Kilimanjaro, and he was like a cosmic medicine man, and he would provide music and different healing realities for the people.
In terms of your instruments that you play, which instruments do you play, and do they speak to you differently when you're playing them?
I play the keys, the trumpet, congas, flute, alto, tenor sax, the xylophone, which is like a pocket saxophone, and cornet, flugelhorn, and piano, djembe, and the one that speaks to me is the keys and the trumpet. Keys because I was trained in that, and I'm more fluent in that, like a fluent language, you know. Trumpet is an ongoing perfectionism. I'm ever trying to perfect the sound on my trumpet. Since I taught myself, the embouchure is always difficult to acquire after I haven't played in a while, whether it's a day or two or just a couple of hours. Sometimes I lose my embouchure, and so I'm always practicing on it. And when I practice, I improvise practice. I don't do scales and play scales over and over and over. I practice the way I perform. I practice improvising. It may come out the same way or the same key or whatever, what have you, but that's how I practice and that's how I play. I only play what's been gifted to me. I haven't learned or been taught anything other than what I've been taught, by whom I've been taught by. And so I use that. I never really had a lot of finance to pay for music lessons and whatnot. Even though I did, I probably did. I just, didn't. The access to people to teach me to play trumpet and saxophone at that time wasn't available, so I had to teach myself. And wanting to put a band together before Epiphanies of Sound, I just played all the instruments, Went and Marcellus said, I don't think you can use computers to make this kind of music. And so I set out to prove him wrong. So I used to do multi-track recordings with my abstract fusion music, and it always sounded like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 other people were playing, but it was just me. And I learned out and figured out a way how to mix and master all the tracks together to make them harmonious and cohesive in sound to make it a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. In terms of your gift with technology, over the years, it seems like you don't have to read the directions for all the technology you have. What is that gift? Where did you receive it?
I credit that to my pops, because my pops he was a gadget man. My pops and my brothers, they gadget men. Most of the guys I know, my brother, including my brothers and my father, they would get a gadget and something familiar. There's always something familiar to us about gadgets, and I think as men, we probably familiar with this stuff with an ancient familiarity, because there's nothing new under the sun. So when we get all these gadgets, we figure them out pretty quickly because it's something we already familiar with. It has a sense of familiarity, and I credit that to my pops, because he had cameras and phones. He bought me my first cell phone, and he used to know, he used to get gadgets before they came out in the public, and a lot of them would send them gadgets and stuff that they didn't have, and he was he was like a god of gadgets. And he knew all that stuff, and he was an old school brother. Those brothers that you could build with, build houses, build anything, and he would take a nail and make something out of it. And even when I was young, we used to play cops and robbers, and we used to take a 2x4 and cut it into 3 pieces, cut the back piece shorter than the middle piece. It would have a long piece, a short piece on the back, and the middle piece would be long coming down, and we would make little play Tommy guns out of that. That was machine guns. So we played war and stuff like that before we knew any better. But that's boys, young boys playing war, cops and robbers and army and stuff like that. We didn't have a lot of toys. My mother didn't buy us guns, so we made guns, and that's pretty much how boys are today. But we had vivid imaginations, to a point where.
Is there anything that you like? Is there anything that you would like to express in this presentation of your life that you're sharing that we haven't gone over?
I just want people to know that I love them. And to me, humanity is a collection of celestial beings, Psalms 82 verse 6 says, know ye not ye are all gods, children of the Most High God. I know it says in verse 7, but you will die as mortal men. So my thing to say to that is tap into your God consciousness, the celestial being that you are, and express everything that God has put in you, because his spirit is in you, and everything that's in you needs to be expressed and brought out in a positive way to let humanity know your aspect of understanding of who God is. And that's what we're here for.
Well, Brother Blue, that says it all. And all of us appreciate you sharing your experiences and your life perspective. And thank you for sharing your journey.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Peace.
Peace.